The 12th annual Cherry Blossom Freedom Walk takes place tomorrow. That walk seeks to raise awareness about the Japanese-American experience during World War II. And this year, the National Japanese-American Memorial Foundation will be honoring two very special people, including our guest here who is with us today, and that is former Cabinet Secretary Norm Mineta, Commerce Secretary, and then later Transportation Secretary, after having served, what, 10 terms in Congress?
In Congress.
What a pleasure to have you with us this morning.
Well, thanks for the invitation to be here.
You know what? What a beautiful weekend for this walk tomorrow. Tell me a little bit about this walk and why it's important to you.
Well, the memorial itself is 10 years old.
Right.
And it's a tribute to the patriotism of Japanese Americans during World War II. So this walk is called the Freedom Walk, to not only publicize the kind of history that Japanese Americans endured during World War II, but to make sure that as we promote the Freedom Walk, that it's a reminder to all of us that something like the evacuation and internment should never ever happen again to anybody else. You
know, you talk about the Japanese-American experience in this country and during World War II. You lived it firsthand.
Yes.
You know, your family, you're from California, and your family had a successful business there. But then came Pearl Harbor. And tell me what happened after Pearl Harbor.
Well, Executive Order 9066 was signed by President Roosevelt in February 42, delegating to the Western Military Defense Command the ability to evacuate and intern persons. Didn't say who, but the commanding general, General DeWitt,
right,
used it to round up 120,000 people of Japanese ancestry. And what they did was to take over all the, or not all, but selected racetracks and county fairgrounds, because they had built-in living quarters, namely horse stables.
Mm-hmm.
And so where we went was Santa Anita, the racetrack near Los Angeles. In the meantime, they were building camps in the interior of the country. And so we ended up in Hart Mountain, Wyoming. And that's where I met
That's where you met Alan Simpson, which would become a lifelong friend.
Absolutely.
And who would know that you would end up in Washington, D.C. together so many years later.
All through junior high school, and college, we wrote to each other.
Uh-huh.
And then in '74, I got elected to the House of Representatives, and he got elected to the Senate in 1978.
Of course, he was there because when your family was in the camp in Wyoming, your family thought, well, you know, maybe we should sort of Boy Scout troop something.
Right.
And he came in as a Boy Scout.
He did.
And that's how you met him.
Right.
You know, it's interesting because people in this country, I think so many people don't understand what happened to the Japanese Americans during that time. So maybe your family was lucky because you were able to save your business, but so many others didn't.
That's correct. And even our home was saved because there was an attorney by the name of J.B. Peckham in San Jose, who, despite the alien land law that said if you couldn't become a citizen of the U.S., you couldn't own land,
right,
he kept the land in his name until the oldest child, who's U.S. born, becomes 21, and then the property was transferred to my sister, and so we were able to retain ownership of our home despite the evacuation and internment.
It had to have been a terribly difficult time, and yet, after your family went through all of this, you went on to serve your country in so many, as a public servant for so many years. Why?
Well, I think, first of all, my father loved this country, and I only saw him cry 3 times. Once was on the 7th of December, because he couldn't understand why the land of his birth was attacking the land of his heart. So he always told all of us, despite all the kinds of problems we were having, that you always had to believe in the United States. And so for him, community service, and I was in the insurance business with him, but he always felt that you always had to also do community service.
And then you did that so well for so many years, and I just asked Norm Mineta if he had retired after, you know, leaving public service. No, you're not.
No.
You're working as chairman with Hill & Knowlton, the big PR firm here in D.C., but enjoying life over in Annapolis, and I guess your wife is glad that you're going to work every day? Is that good?
Absolutely.
All right. Well, listen, congratulations so much on your honor.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking time to come by and speak with us and for what you've done for this country.
Thanks for the invitation to be here.
You bet. That was the information about the Freedom Walk, which will be taking place tomorrow. All right, Tony, back over to you.